Warren Buffett is making a huge bet on the US housing market to the tune of $726 million. That's right, even though a couple months ago he warned about the risk in the commercial real estate sector, he simultaneously started buying positions in US home builders. And this is during a time where US housing prices seem to be declining from their highs, and the market doesn't look so rosy. But what is Warren Buffett seeing that the rest of us might not be? Well, I think I have a pretty good idea, and that's what I'm going to share in this video. But before I get into it, my name is Nolan Matthias, and if you want to thrive financially, this is the place for you. So do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and hit the like button so more people like you can see this video. Okay, so let's get into it. Warren Buffett in the last quarter made a huge bet on the US housing market. And like I said, this is even though he warned about the crisis in the commercial real estate sector. And the reason that I believe that he is investing in the US housing market is because there is a significant supply gap. And the most recent setbacks in US housing values is providing a buying opportunity in an industry that is set to skyrocket, even in the face of higher interest rates. And especially in the face of the fact that interest rates at some point are probably going to come down. And I'll tell you more about the specific buying opportunity in a minute, but let's take a look at what he actually bought and why he's buying it. So Buffett last quarter bought 3 stocks in 3 big home builders. The first was a significant position in the biggest home builder in the US. He bought $726 million worth of stock in D.R. Horton. This is a family that primarily builds single-family homes, but also builds single-family rentals as well as multifamily rentals. They typically sell between $200,000 and $1 million, and they're coming off a most recent quarter where revenues were up 11% to get this, $9.7 billion. That is in a single quarter. This is a company that does in excess of $30 to $40 billion worth of home building every single year, and Buffett just bet big on them. Now, that being said, their net income was down 19% to $1.3 billion, and that's largely due to the reduction in prices that came as a result of the higher interest rates. Now keep that in mind as I get to the explanation a little bit later on. Oh, and just as a side note, D.R. Horton stock is up 38% this year. Now the second position he took is in a company called Leonard Corp. Now this position was significantly smaller, only 17 million. They also build houses. They have a little bit of exposure in lending. And while their stock price is up 36.7%, they've seen a 9% reduction in sale prices, an 8% reduction in deliveries. But in their fiscal year that ended in August of 2023, they only saw a 2% reduction in revenues. And the third organization that Buffett took another big position in is NVR. He bought $65.5 million worth of this company, and this is a company that's seen new orders increase by 27%, even in a market where their average sale price is down by 5%. So the big question is why, if all of these companies are seeing a big reduction in net profits or in deliveries or sale prices, is Warren Buffett jumping on the opportunity to buy these corporations? Well, I think there's some really simple answers here. The first part of the explanation is that there's a significant gap between the number of households that are being created and the number of homes that are being built. In fact, according to CNN, between 2012 and 2022, this gap rose to 6.5 million homes. So in other words, there's 6.5 million less homes than what is needed in the areas that people want to live in the US. And this is a problem that is also being faced in Canada as well. Now, the important thing to point out here is that there may be enough homes in the US and in Canada to house all the people that need to be housed, but they aren't in the places where people actually want to live, and that is very important. And one stat is suggesting that it would take up to a tripling of new housing starts in order to catch up to the gap that has already been created in North America. So if there's this massive gap and there's also a significant increase in momentum that needs to be had, I am sure that Buffett is looking at this as a buying opportunity, seeing that there's going to be significant demand for housing over the next 10 to 15 years as North Americans try to catch up to the housing problem that we've created. The other big reason for his purchases, I believe, is that typically single-family homes are one of the best hedges against inflation. And while Warren Buffett doesn't want to go out there and buy a whole bunch of single-family homes, the next best thing is buying the builders, the companies that are going to build those homes. And there's some reduced risk there as well, because if there's going to be solid demand, buying organizations that are in and out of the market quickly and aren't necessarily affected as much by higher interest rates is far better than buying a whole bunch of individual properties and trying to service them all at those higher interest rates. So what Buffett is doing is he is taking advantage of this temporary lull, that the higher interest rates have created, and he's using it as an opportunity to invest in organizations that are clearly going to be winners in the long run. And while he took a really big position with D.R. Horton, he kind of hedged it with some smaller positions with some smaller builders, which is just really smart diversification and really smart investing. And while many people are fearing higher interest rates and the idea that people may not be able to afford their homes, the fact that Buffett is jumping into the residential real estate market with such big positions is a clear indicator that the housing market, especially if and when interest rates start to come down, is going to thrive. And I think that's the big play here. He expects that interest rates are going to come down, and when they do, that's going to push buyers back into the market, which is going to create a really amazing environment for these home builders and ultimately a pretty big return for Berkshire Hathaway. Now, obviously, we can't all invest like Buffett, but if you want to see a couple of videos on how to invest your money, there's two that are going to be linked right here. One of them specifically on real estate. Make sure you check them out.